With that, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you being here. This is a huge topic that cannot possibly be even scratched in my mind in 5 minutes with each of the people that's up here. I have a whole litany of questions, which I know my office will follow up through the chair with each of you. I think where I want to go this morning after listening to you, because I find myself maybe not with my colleagues on some of this. I have a problem with government is here to help us, and we need more government. We're going to have to go into this new frontier, and we've got to have more regulation. I mean, I heard at the beginning we have a regulatory vacuum. That scares me to death. I tend to trust people before I distrust them. I tend to believe that people are in these things for good, that they're trying to improve their own lives and hopefully the lives of people around them, that old adage of a rising tide lifts all boats. And yet I hear elected officials who don't have any concept of what we're dealing with here and how exciting it is, talking about, oh my gosh, we got to run in, we got to regulate, we got to create more government infrastructure. And by the way, I respectfully disagree with the idea that that won't act as a wet blanket on this amazing new technology. What we're talking about here is blockchain. Blockchain technology applies all over the place. I mean, it can solve some of our cybersecurity issues. These are open transactions where Milton Friedman, of all people, predicted this back in 1999 when he said there will come a day in the financial services space where you will be able to do this over the internet, where A will have a transaction with B, and it'll be entirely open for people to see, but A won't know B and B won't know A. You can know that, and you can see things. I think Mr. Lempres was talking about how you can see things through the blockchain that are going on. I love the fact that Mr. Rosenblum talked about examples of blockchain technology outside of this space. And I will tell you, in Minnesota, we have a company called BankU that's using blockchain to provide digital identities to unbanked and underbanked individuals in order to build a credit history and access capital. I mean, that's something that Democrats and Republicans should be celebrating here in Congress, not going, oh my gosh, this is terrible, we don't understand it. We need a new policeman, or we got to take the policemen we already have and give them even more powers to start to invade this space and perhaps frustrate the development. I have concerns. I realize there has to be some regulation, but it's the balance. And I've heard from the panel that we have regulation already in place. We just need clarity. Mr. Lempres, why don't I start with you? You talked about we have to be able to say what is a security in this space? What is a commodity? I would add, what is currency? Because these are all important definitions to whether or not certain agencies are within their jurisdiction. And to have you say two things really scared me. One, that you haven't made any offerings because you don't have the certainty you need to know whether or not you can start to work in this space. And second, to say that 20% of your workforce is working on compliance, that's nothing to be celebrating from this side of the table in my mind. So I just ask you, what about clarity in this issue, in this area, and what about the balance that I'm concerned with?
Yeah, thank you for raising it. It's obviously a very, very important issue. We, going to certainty, I can tell you that from our standpoint, what we really need more than any particular approach is to know what that approach is going to be from the government so we can plan and we can move. This system innovates very quickly, and just knowing where the lanes are is extremely helpful for us.
If I can interrupt real quick,
Please.
I'm sorry, because I'm thinking at a conference that I was at last week, one of our very important and respected secretaries made a statement about everybody needs to register. Well, there's no clarity around the law, so all of a sudden people who are looking at being in this space or getting into this space, I heard from more people there after that comment that we can't start our business in the United States. We're going to have to go somewhere else to start it. I mean, does that concern you?
It does, although I will say that the entire world is struggling with these same issues. And with regard to the percentage of our team that's focused on compliance, the biggest piece of that is focused on Bank Secrecy Act, know your customer obligations, people that are concerned about money laundering and counterterrorism, things like that. And that's an important element no matter which country we're operating in. And certainly any developed country, we will have those expectations.
And we should work with all of you to understand better those things that would work. I would just leave you with this. Right now, this system gives advantage to the individual and not to the government. And I'm worried about giving advantage to the government and taking away liberty from the individual. So hopefully we'll be able to meet that balance as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.